The gun was pointed at her stomach. Madeline Cross hadn't eaten in 2 days, hadn't slept in 3. And now, crouched behind a metal desk in a bunker she didn't know existed until 20 minutes ago, she understood that everything, the betrayal, the car crash, the stranger who saved her, had been leading to this exact moment. Above her, automatic weapons tore through the Montana night. Below, in the suffocating dark, she pressed both hands against the small swell of her belly and made a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. This is the story of how I lost everything in one night and found something I never knew I needed in the wreckage. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The pregnancy test sat on the bathroom counter like a loaded gun. 2 pink lines, clear as day. Clear as the lie Madeline had been telling herself for the past 3 weeks, that the nausea was stress, that the exhaustion was from working double shifts at the diner, that the tenderness in her breasts was just her period coming early. Madeline Cross stared at the white plastic stick, her reflection fractured in the mirror behind it. 26 years old. Hair still damp from the shower, pulled back in a messy knot. Dark circles under green eyes that used to be brighter, back when she still believed in things like plans and futures and men who meant what they said. 8 weeks? Maybe 9. She did the math backwards, her hands gripping the edge of the sink. That would put conception right around New Year's Eve, when Marcus had pulled her close at midnight and whispered all those promises about next year being different, better, theirs. She picked up the test, looked at it again, as if the lines might rearrange themselves into something less permanent. They didn't. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Marcus. 3rd time in the last hour. Where are you? Thought you were coming straight home after your shift. Home. The word felt strange now, like something in a language she used to speak but had forgotten. The apartment they shared, his name on the lease, her clothes in half the closet, had never quite felt like home anyway. More like a place she was staying, a place she kept waiting to feel right about. She typed back, "On my way, need to talk." The response came immediately. "Everything okay?" Madeline stared at those 2 words, such a simple question, such an impossible answer. "Yeah, just, we need to talk." She tucked the test into her jacket pocket and left the gas station bathroom, stepping out into the February cold. Montana in winter was brutal, the kind of cold that found every gap in your clothing, every crack in your resolve. She'd grown up here, in Billings, but she'd never gotten used to it. Some people said you acclimated. Madeline had learned they were lying. The drive back to the apartment took 20 minutes through streets slicked with black ice and bordered by snowbanks that hadn't melted since November. The heater in her 10-year-old Honda sputtered more than it warmed, and she kept the radio off. She needed to think, needed to figure out how to say the words. "I'm pregnant." 2 words. They should be simple. But nothing with Marcus was simple anymore. They'd met 2 years ago at a bar where she'd been celebrating her birthday with friends she no longer saw. He'd been charming, the kind of charming that felt dangerous in a good way, back when she still thought danger could be good. Tall, dark hair, quick smile. He worked in finance, which she'd later learned meant he managed other people's money and occasionally lost it. He drove a leased BMW and always picked up the check and made her feel like someone worth impressing. 6 months in, she'd moved into his apartment. A year in, she'd started noticing the late nights, the locked phone, the way he'd get vague about where he'd been or who he'd been with. 18 months in, she'd stopped asking questions because the answers, or lack of them, hurt too much. But she'd stayed. Because leaving felt harder than staying. Because she'd burned bridges with her family over smaller things than this. Because starting over at 26, alone, with nothing but a high school diploma and a decade of waitressing on her resume seemed impossible. And now this. She pulled into the apartment complex, parking in her usual spot 3 spaces down from Marcus's BMW. The building was nice enough. Newer construction, managed lawns, security lights that actually worked. Marcus insisted on nice things. It was one of the qualities she'd admired about him once. The apartment was on the 2nd floor. She climbed the exterior stairs, her breath fogging in the frozen air, and let herself in with the key that never quite turned smoothly in the lock. The lights were on, music playing low from the speaker in the living room, something jazzy and smooth that Marcus always put on when he wanted to seem sophisticated. She could smell his cologne, the expensive kind he ordered online. Marcus? She set her purse on the small table by the door, shrugging out of her jacket. I'm home. No answer. She walked through the narrow entryway into the living room. Empty. The bedroom door was closed. Marcus? Louder this time. A sound from the bedroom, movement, then voices, low, hurried, distinctly plural. Madeline's stomach dropped. Not the morning sickness this time. Something worse. She crossed the living room in 4 strides and pushed open the bedroom door. The scene arranged itself in her mind like a photograph she'd never be able to forget. Marcus scrambling off the bed, boxer shorts half on. A woman, blonde, younger than Madeline, face flushed, clutching the sheet to her chest. Clothes scattered across the floor like evidence at a crime scene. Maddie, Marcus started, his hands up like she was the one who'd done something wrong. This isn't... Don't. The word came out harder than she meant it, harder than she felt. Inside, everything was crumbling, but her voice stayed steady. Don't say it isn't what it looks like. The blonde was staring at her with wide eyes, her lipstick smeared, her hair wild. I didn't know. He said he was single. Of course he did. Madeline looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. Saw the guilt written across his face, but also something else. Annoyance. Like she'd interrupted something important. How long? Maddie, come on. How long, Marcus? He ran a hand through his hair, sighed like she was being unreasonable. Does it matter? Yeah, she said quietly. It matters. A few months, maybe 4. 4 months. She thought about the pregnancy test in her jacket pocket, thought about the timing. New Year's Eve was 2 months ago, which meant he'd already been sleeping with this woman, or someone, when he'd made all those promises. The blonde was getting dressed now, fumbling with her bra, her movements jerky with panic. I should go. No. Marcus turned to her, his voice gentler than Madeline had heard it in months. Stay. This is... We're done here. He looked back at Madeline. You need to leave. The words hung in the air between them. Excuse me? You heard me. This isn't working, Maddie. It hasn't been working for a while. You're clingy. You're always suspicious. I wonder why. And honestly, I think we both know this was coming. So just pack your stuff and go. I'll give you until tomorrow to get your things out. Madeline stared at him. At this man she'd shared a bed with for 2 years. This man whose child she was carrying. This man who was standing in their bedroom, half naked, with another woman telling her to leave. It's my apartment, Marcus continued when she didn't move. My lease. You're not on it. So legally... The laugh that escaped her throat didn't sound like her own. You're really going to talk to me about what's legal right now? I'm just saying you don't have a right to be here. I'm asking you to leave. If you don't, I can call. I'm pregnant. The words came out before she could stop them, before she could think about whether this was the right time, the right way. They just came. Marcus's face went blank. What? I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. The blonde made a small noise, surprise or disgust. Madeline couldn't tell. Marcus just stood there, processing. Then, that's not my problem. The room tilted. Madeline reached for the doorframe to steady herself. What did you just say? I said it's not my problem. Marcus's voice was cold now, businesslike, the same tone he used when he talked about bad investments. I don't know if it's even mine. Are you serious right now? And even if it is, I never agreed to this. You were on the pill. This is on you. The pill isn't 100% equal. I don't care, Madeline. He cut her off, each word sharp and precise. I don't want a kid. I don't want this relationship. I don't want you. So take your drama and get out of my apartment. The blonde was fully dressed now, edging toward the door. I really should. No, stay. Marcus's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Gentle, possessive. She's leaving. And that was it. That was the moment Madeline understood it was really over. Not because of the cheating, not even because of the cruelty, but because of that touch, the tenderness he showed the stranger while looking at Madeline like she was garbage he needed to take out. Fine. Her voice came out steady again, hollow. I'll go. She turned and walked back into the living room, grabbed her purse, her jacket, her keys. Behind her, she could hear Marcus saying something to the blonde, his voice low and soothing. The pregnancy test was still in her jacket pocket. She left it there. She should pack. Should gather her things, her clothes, the few possessions she'd accumulated in 2 years. But the thought of staying in that apartment one more second, breathing the same air as Marcus and his blonde and their casual destruction of everything she'd thought her life was, made her skin crawl. So she left, down the stairs, across the parking lot, into her car. The engine started on the second try. She pulled out of the complex without looking back. No plan, no destination, just driving. The streets were empty this time of night, past 11, most of Billings already asleep, or at least indoors, away from the cold. She drove east on I-90, the highway cutting through darkness broken only by occasional streetlights and the red glow of taillights ahead. Her phone kept buzzing. She ignored it. The numbness was starting to wear off, and underneath it was something sharp and jagged. Panic, fear, the crushing weight of reality settling onto her shoulders. No home, no relationship, no plan, and pregnant. She thought about her mother, who'd stopped speaking to her 3 years ago over something Madeline couldn't even remember now, some argument about choices and responsibility and throwing your life away. She thought about her sister in Seattle, who sent Christmas cards but nothing more personal. She thought about her friends from high school, scattered across the state or the country, living lives that had moved on without her. There was no one to call, nowhere to go. The realization hit her like a physical thing, stealing her breath. She was completely alone. The tears came then, hot and fast, blurring the highway ahead. She swiped at them with the back of her hand, trying to focus on the road, but they kept coming. Great, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She pulled off at the next exit, into a deserted parking lot belonging to a closed gas station. Put the car in park and let herself fall apart. How had she gotten here? How had her life become this small, this fragile, that one night could shatter all of it? The pregnancy test was in her pocket. She pulled it out, looked at those 2 pink lines again through tear-blurred vision. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the tiny cluster of cells growing inside her. "I'm so sorry." She didn't know what she was apologizing for the situation, for the father who'd already rejected them both, for the fact that she had no idea how to do this, how to be what this child needed. For a long time, she just sat there in the cold car, in the empty parking lot, crying until there was nothing left. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen. Marcus. Something hard crystallized in her chest. She answered. "What? Where are you?" His voice was irritated, inconvenienced. "Does it matter? You need to come back and get your stuff. Tonight. I'm not keeping it here. It's midnight, Marcus. Not my problem. You've got an hour. After that, I'm putting everything in the hallway." The line went dead. Madeline stared at the phone, thought about her clothes, her books, the jewelry box her grandmother had given her before she died. Not much. But it was all she had. She put the car in drive and headed back. The apartment complex looked different when she pulled in 20 minutes later. Colder. More hostile. Marcus's BMW was still there, but now there was a second car parked next to it. The blondes, presumably. They were probably inside right now laughing about the crazy ex-girlfriend, moving on with their evening like Madeline's entire world hadn't just imploded. She climbed the stairs slowly, exhaustion settling into her bones. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open. Her belongings were piled in the entryway, clothes thrown into garbage bags, books stacked haphazardly. Her jewelry box perched on top of a duffel bag she didn't recognize, probably something Marcus had lying around. He appeared in the bedroom doorway, dressed now in sweatpants and a t-shirt. "About time. It's been 30 minutes. "Yeah, well, I want you gone." The blonde was visible behind him, sitting on the bed with her phone, pretending not to listen. Madeline started gathering her things. 3 garbage bags, the duffel, the jewelry box, a cardboard box with kitchen stuff, her coffee mug, a mixing bowl, the wooden spoon she'd bought at a farmer's market. It was pathetic how little space her life took up. "Keys," Marcus said, holding out his hand. She fished the apartment key off her keyring and dropped it into his palm without touching him. "Good. Now get out." She made 3 trips to the car, loading everything into the trunk and back seat. Marcus stood in the doorway the whole time, watching like a security guard, making sure she didn't steal anything. On the last trip, She paused at the bottom of the stairs and looked up at him. I meant what I said about being pregnant, and I meant what I said, not my problem. So that's it? You're just going to pretend this isn't happening? What do you want from me, Madeline? You want me to pretend I'm happy about this? You want me to play house and be a father? That's not who I am. That was never the deal. There was no deal, Marcus. There was just... She stopped. What was the point? Never mind. Look. His voice softened slightly, not kind, but less hostile. You should probably take care of it. The pregnancy. It's early enough. Just go to Planned Parenthood or whatever. They can... Don't! She held up a hand. Don't tell me what to do with my body. I'm just saying some... I know what you're saying, and my answer is no. He shrugged. Your choice. But don't expect me to be involved. I'll sign whatever papers you need me to sign to stay out of it, but that's all you're getting from me. Madeline looked at him for a long moment. This man she'd loved, or thought she loved, or wanted to love. She wasn't even sure anymore. You know what the sad thing is? She said quietly. I actually thought you were better than this. Yeah, well, guess you were wrong. She turned and walked to her car without another word. Behind her, the apartment door closed. Locked. Final. She sat in the driver's seat, surrounded by garbage bags full of her life, and tried to figure out what to do next. It was almost 1 a.m. She had maybe $200 in her checking account. No credit cards. Marcus had always said they were a bad investment. No savings. No family to call. No friends close enough to show up on their doorstep at 1 a.m. with all their possessions and no explanation. She could get a hotel room for the night, figure things out in the morning. But as she pulled out of the parking lot, she found herself driving east again, away from Billings, away from Marcus and that apartment and the wreckage of everything she'd thought her life would be. The highway stretched ahead, dark and empty. Snow had started falling, light flurries at first, then heavier, the flakes catching in her headlights like static. She should turn around, find a hotel, be smart about this. But she kept driving. Mile after mile, the city lights faded behind her. The highway narrowed, the snow got heavier. She wasn't thinking clearly, she knew that. Exhaustion and shock and hormones were making decisions for her, but she couldn't seem to stop. Her phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it. Marcus. Stop being dramatic and move on. We both know this is for the best. She threw the phone into the passenger seat and pressed harder on the gas. The storm was getting worse. The highway was slick beneath her tires, the center line barely visible through the snow. She should slow down, should pull over and wait it out. But something in her wanted to keep going, wanted to outrun the pain, the fear, the crushing awareness of how completely her life had fallen apart. The wind picked up, buffeting her small car. The heater was losing its battle against the cold seeping through the vents. Her hands were numb on the steering wheel. A sign flashed past. Next services, 47 miles. 47 miles. That was nothing. She could make it. The road curved ahead. She took the turn too fast, felt the wheels slip, compensated, overcorrected. The car spun. Everything slowed down and sped up at the same time. The world tilted. She caught glimpses of sky, snow, road, headlights sweeping across empty whiteness. Her stomach lurched. Her hands gripped the wheel uselessly. The car hit something, a snowbank maybe, or a ditch, and the impact jolted through her entire body. Metal screamed, glass cracked. The airbag deployed with a sound like a gunshot, slamming into her chest and face. Then silence. Madeline sat perfectly still, her ears ringing, her face burning where the airbag had hit her. The engine was still running. The headlights pointed up at an angle, illuminating nothing but falling snow. She tried to move. Pain shot through her chest, her neck, her abdomen. The baby. Panic flooded through her. She pressed her hands to her stomach, as if she could somehow feel through skin and muscle to make sure everything was okay. But there was nothing, just the dull ache of impact and the sharp edge of fear. She needed help, needed to call 911. Her phone. Where was her phone? She looked around the crushed cabin of the car. The passenger seat was empty. The phone must have been thrown somewhere in the crash, under the seat, into the back. She couldn't see it. The driver's side door was jammed. She pushed against it, but it wouldn't budge. The frame was bent, twisted from the impact. Okay. Don't panic. She tried the window. The button didn't respond. Electrical system must be shot. The back door. She could climb over the seat. Moving hurt. Everything hurt. But she managed to twist around, ignoring the protests from her bruised ribs, and claw her way into the back seat. The door handle worked. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, stealing her breath. She half fell out of the car into snow that came up to her knees. The storm was brutal out here, wind whipping the snow into her face, temperature well below freezing. Her jacket was still in the car. She'd taken it off while driving because the heater had been working well enough earlier. Now she was in just a t-shirt and jeans, already shivering. She needed to get her jacket. Her phone. Call for help. She waded back to the car and reached through the open back door, searching. Her fingers found her jacket wedged between the front seats. She pulled it on, the fabric cold but better than nothing. Her phone. Where the hell was her phone? There. Under the driver's seat. She stretched, her body screaming in protest, and grabbed it. The screen was cracked, but it turned on. No signal. Of course there was no signal. She was in the middle of nowhere, in a storm, with no cell service. She tried anyway. Dialed 911. The call failed immediately. Okay, new plan. The highway had to be close. She couldn't have gone that far off the road. If she could get back to the highway, flag down a car. But even as she thought it, she knew how unlikely that was. She hadn't seen another car in the last 20 miles. Who drove in weather like this? Still, staying in the car wasn't an option. The engine had died at some point. Without heat, she'd freeze. She started walking. The snow was deeper than she'd realized. Each step was a struggle, her feet sinking, the cold already seeping through her boots. The wind cut through her jacket like it wasn't there. She couldn't see the road. Couldn't see anything but white and dark and more white. She was walking uphill, or thought she was. Everything was disorienting in the storm. Her phone buzzed, a text coming through. She pulled it out with numb fingers. 1 bar of service. Barely. The text was from Marcus. Don't contact me again. She almost laughed. Almost. Here she was, freezing to death in a Montana blizzard, and he was worried about her calling him. She tried 911 again. This time it rang. Once, twice. Then the signal dropped. No. She stared at the phone, willing it to work. Tried again. Nothing. She kept walking. Her teeth were chattering so hard she'd bitten her tongue. She could taste blood. Her feet were numb. Her hands were numb. Everything was numb except the pain in her chest and stomach where the airbag had hit. How long had she been walking? 5 minutes? 10? It felt like hours. She should see the road by now. Should see headlights. Something. Instead, there was just snow and wind and cold so intense it hurt to breathe. She stumbled, caught herself, kept going. The baby. She had to keep going for the baby, but her legs were getting heavy, each step harder than the last. Her body was shutting down, conserving energy, preparing for the worst. She fell. Snow cushioned the impact, but she didn't have the strength to get back up. She lay there, face down, and thought about how easy it would be to just stay here, to let the cold take her, to stop fighting. No. She pushed herself up onto her hands and knees, crawled a few feet, tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't support her. Crawled some more. Her vision was starting to blur, the edges going dark. She knew what that meant. Hypothermia. Her body temperature dropping. Not much time left. She collapsed again. This time she didn't get up. The snow was almost comfortable now. Soft. Quiet. She couldn't feel the cold anymore. Couldn't feel much of anything. She thought about the baby, wondered if it was already gone. Wondered if that was for the best. No. Not for the best. Never for the best. I'm sorry, she whispered again. To the baby. To herself. To the life she'd wanted and would never have. The darkness was closing in. She could feel herself slipping. Then, light, bright, blinding, headlights cutting through the storm. She tried to move, couldn't. Tried to call out, but her voice was gone. The light got brighter, closer, an engine sound cutting through the wind. Then voices. Footsteps crunching in the snow. Someone was touching her, lifting her. She tried to see who it was, but her eyes wouldn't focus. Still breathing. Get her in the car. Hospital's too far. Strong arms, warmth, the sensation of being carried. She wanted to thank them, wanted to explain. but consciousness was slipping away like water through her fingers. The last thing she registered before the darkness took her completely was a voice. Deep, controlled, with an edge of command that cut through everything else. Drive, now, and call ahead. I want everything ready when we get there. Then nothing. Madeline woke to the smell of antiseptic and something else. Cedar, maybe, or expensive wood polish. Her eyelids felt heavy, her mouth dry. She tried to move and pain shot through her ribs, sharp enough to make her gasp. Don't! The voice came from somewhere to her right. Male. The same voice from before, from the snow, from the darkness. You've got bruised ribs, possibly cracked. Moving's going to hurt for a while. She forced her eyes open. The ceiling above her was high, paneled in dark wood with exposed beams. Not a hospital ceiling. Wrong color, wrong texture, wrong everything. Where? Her voice came out as a rasp. She swallowed, tried again. Where am I? My home. She turned her head slowly because even that hurt, and found the source of the voice. He sat in a leather chair beside the bed, one ankle crossed over his knee, watching her with the kind of stillness that made her think of predators. Dark hair, dark eyes, maybe mid-30s. Expensive suit, no tie. The kind of face that would be handsome if it weren't so carefully controlled. Who are you? Dominic Moretti. He said it like she should know the name. When her expression didn't change, something flickered across his face. Not quite amusement. And you are? Madeline. Madeline Cross. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. The pain in her ribs flared white hot. I said don't move. His tone didn't change, but somehow carried more weight. My doctor gave you something for the pain, but it's going to take time to work fully. Your doctor? She looked around the room, large, well-appointed, definitely not a hospital. Why aren't I in a hospital? Because the nearest hospital is 43 miles away, and you were bleeding internally. You wouldn't have made it. The words settled over her like cold water. Bleeding? Her hand went to her stomach. The baby is fine. He stood, moving to the side of the bed. Up close, he was taller than she'd realized. 6'2", maybe 6'3". The bleeding was from the impact, bruising around your spleen and liver. Dr. Reeves did an ultrasound. No placental abruption. Fetal heartbeat is strong. You got lucky. She stared at him. You have an ultrasound machine in your house? I have a fully equipped medical suite in my house. Dr. Reeves is on retainer. He pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat again. That same controlled stillness. You want to tell me what you were doing driving into a blizzard at 1 in the morning? I could ask you the same thing. What were you doing out there? Coming home from a meeting in Billings, I saw your car go off the road. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. You're avoiding the question. Madeline looked away. The room was too nice. Everything was too nice. The bed she was lying in probably cost more than her car. The painting on the wall across from her looked like something that belonged in a museum. I was leaving, she said finally. Just leaving. In the middle of a storm, with no destination. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yeah. That's either very brave or very stupid. I'm going with stupid. She closed her eyes. The exhaustion was pulling at her again, heavy and insistent. How long have I been here? 18 hours. It's evening now. Almost 7. 18 hours. Marcus would have noticed her silence by now. Not that he'd care. He was probably relieved. My things, she said suddenly, eyes opening. My car, all my stuff was in my car, is here. We pulled the vehicle out this morning. Everything that was in it is downstairs in storage. You towed my car here? I had it towed here. There's a difference. He paused. You're going to need a new one. The frame's bent. Even if we could fix it, it wouldn't be safe. She wanted to laugh, wanted to cry, settled for staring at the ceiling. Great. Perfect. That's just perfect. You have somewhere you need to be? No. The word came out harder than she meant it. No, I don't have anywhere to be. No home, no job, no family that gives a damn. Just me and a car that's totaled and a baby I have no idea how to take care of. The silence stretched. She could feel him watching her, but she didn't look at him. Didn't want to see pity or judgment or whatever expression went with what she'd just said. The father? Dominic asked. Not in the picture. His choice or yours? His. She laughed, bitter. Definitely his. More silence. Then, you should rest. Dr. Reeves will want to check on you again later, but for now, sleep. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Figure out what rest? What happens next? She finally looked at him. Why are you helping me? Because you needed help. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. He stood, moving toward the door. There's water on the nightstand. If you need anything, press the button on the side table. Someone will come. Wait. She struggled to push herself up on her elbows, ignoring the pain. I can't stay here. I don't even know you. No, you don't. He paused in the doorway, his hand on the frame. But you don't have anywhere else to go, and I'm not putting you out in your condition. So for now, you stay. We'll discuss terms later. Terms? But he was already gone, the door closing softly behind him. Madeline lay back against the pillows, her mind racing. This was insane. She was in a stranger's house, a very rich stranger's house, apparently, with no way to leave and no real understanding of what was happening. She should be terrified. The strange thing was, she wasn't. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was the lingering effects of whatever painkillers were in her system. Or maybe it was just that after the last 24 hours, her capacity for fear had burned out. She reached for the water glass on the nightstand. Her hand shook slightly as she brought it to her lips. The water was cold, clean, exactly what she needed. Outside the window, she could see snow still falling, lighter now, but steady. The view showed acres of land, pine trees heavy with snow, rolling hills, no other houses in sight. Wherever she was, it was remote, private. The kind of place someone chose when they didn't want neighbors, or when they didn't want to be found. The thought should have scared her. Instead, she just felt tired. She set the water glass down and let her eyes close. Within minutes, she was asleep. When she woke again, the room was dark except for a lamp in the corner casting soft light. Someone had been in while she slept. There was a tray on the table beside the bed with covered dishes and a fresh glass of water. Her stomach growled. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Yesterday morning, maybe, before her shift at the diner, before everything fell apart. She managed to sit up this time, moving slowly, and reached for the tray. Under the cover, she found soup, chicken, homemade from the smell of it, and fresh bread still warm. A small bowl of fruit, utensils that felt heavy and expensive in her hand. She ate slowly, her stomach protesting at first, then accepting the food gratefully. The soup was good, really good, the kind of thing someone had spent time making, not just reheated from a can. She was halfway through the bowl when the door opened. Not Dominic this time. A woman, maybe late 50s, with steel gray hair pulled back and sharp eyes that took in everything. She wore slacks and a cardigan, practical but well made. You're awake. She moved into the room with the kind of efficiency that spoke of long practice. Good. I was beginning to worry. I'm Elena. I manage the household. Madeline. I know. Elena picked up the tray, checking what Madeline had eaten. How's your stomach? Better. The soup's really good. I'll tell Marco. He'll be pleased. She set the tray aside. Dr. Reeves will be here in about an hour to check on you. In the meantime, do you need anything? Fresh clothes? A shower? A shower sounded like heaven. I can manage a shower. With help. The bathroom's through there. She gestured to a door Madeline hadn't noticed. I'll help you. The doctor was very clear that you're not to be alone for the first 48 hours. Head injury, even a mild one, requires monitoring. Madeline wanted to argue, wanted to say she could take care of herself. But the truth was, she wasn't sure she could stand without help, let alone shower. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. Elena helped her out of bed, a slow, painful process, and into the bathroom. It was larger than Madeline's entire bedroom in Marcus's apartment had been. Marble tile, a shower that could fit 4 people, a tub that looked like something from a spa. I'll be right outside, Elena said, laying out towels and what looked like expensive toiletries. Call if you need anything. The shower helped. The hot water loosened muscles Madeline hadn't realized were tense, washed away the lingering smell of fear and snow and accident. She moved carefully, aware of her bruised ribs, the tenderness across her chest where the airbag had hit. When she finally emerged, clean, dressed in soft pajamas Elena had left for her, she felt almost human again. Elena was waiting, as promised. She helped Madeline back to the bed, then left with the promise that Dr. Reeves would be up shortly. Madeline sat propped against pillows, looking around the room with clearer eyes now. Everything was expensive but not showy. Tasteful. The kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. What kind of man had a medical suite in his house? Had doctors on retainer? Lived in a place that required household managers? The knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Dr. Reeves was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and capable hands. She carried a medical bag and moved with the brisk efficiency of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "Ms. Cross, I'm Dr. Reeves. I treated you when you were brought in yesterday." She set her bag on the side table and pulled out a stethoscope. "How are you feeling?" "Sore, but better." "Good. That's normal." She listened to Madeline's heart, her lungs, pressed gently against her abdomen, checking for tenderness. "Any dizziness? Nausea?" "No." "Headache?" "A little, but it's not bad." Dr. Reeves nodded, making notes on a tablet. "The internal bleeding has stopped. Your vitals are stable. I want to do another ultrasound, check on the baby, but everything looked good this morning." "This morning?" "I checked on you around 6 a.m. You were still sleeping." She pulled out a portable ultrasound machine from her bag, compact, professional grade. "This will be cold." The gel was cold. Madeline watched the screen as Dr. Reeves moved the wand across her stomach, the image grainy but clear enough. And there it was, a tiny shape, a flickering heartbeat. "There," Dr. Reeves pointed. "Strong heartbeat, good positioning. Everything looks exactly as it should for 8 weeks." Madeline stared at the screen. That was her baby. Real, alive, still here despite everything. "Can I?" Her voice cracked. "Can I have a picture?" "Of course." Dr. Reeves pressed a button and the machine hummed, printing out a small image. She handed it to Madeline. "You're very lucky, Miss Cross. The accident could have ended very differently." "I know." Dr. Reeves cleaned off the gel and packed away her equipment. "I want to see you again in 3 days. Sooner if you have any pain, bleeding, or dizziness. And you need to take it easy. Bed rest for at least the next week." "A week?" "You were in a serious accident. Your body needs time to heal. That means no driving, no heavy lifting, minimal activity." She paused. "I understand your situation is complicated, but for the sake of your baby, you need to rest." Madeline looked down at the ultrasound picture. That tiny shape, that flickering heartbeat. "Okay, a week." After Dr. Reeves left, Madeline sat holding the picture, running her thumb over the grainy image. She'd been so focused on survival, on getting through the next hour, the next minute, that she hadn't really thought about what it meant. That she was going to be a mother. That in 7 months, give or take, she'd be responsible for another human being. The weight of it settled over her, heavy and terrifying and somehow right. A knock at the door. "Come in." Dominic entered, still in the suit from earlier, but with the jacket off now, sleeves rolled up. "Dr. Reeves says you're recovering well." "Apparently." He moved to the window, looking out at the snow. "We need to talk about what happens next." "You mentioned terms earlier." "I did." He turned to face her. "You can't leave. Not for at least a week, doctor's orders. After that, you're free to go wherever you want. But I'm guessing you don't have anywhere to go." It wasn't a question. Madeline didn't answer. "My sister runs a translation company," Dominic continued. "They're always looking for contractors. If you speak any languages besides English, there might be work there. It's remote, flexible hours. The pay is decent. I speak French and some Spanish. That works. I can make an introduction." He paused. "You can stay here while you figure things out. Room and board covered. No strings." Madeline studied him. "Why would you do that?" "Because you need help, and I'm in a position to provide it. Nobody does something for nothing." "I'm not nobody." His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his voice. "Look, Miss Cross, Madeline, I don't know what happened to you. I don't know why you were driving into a storm in the middle of the night. And unless you want to tell me, I'm not going to ask. But I do know that you're 8 weeks pregnant, you have no support system, and you nearly died 2 days ago. So I'm offering you a place to stay and a way to make money until you get on your feet. That's it. No hidden agenda. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that it was really that simple. But nothing in her life had ever been that simple. How long? She asked. How long what? How long can I stay? As long as you need to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He moved toward the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow, if you're feeling up to it, I'll introduce you to my sister. She can explain the work, see if it's something you're interested in. And if I'm not interested, then we'll figure out something else. He paused with his hand on the doorknob. One way or another, Madeline, you're not going back out into the cold. Not on my watch. The door closed behind him before she could respond. Madeline lay back against the pillows, her mind spinning. This was crazy. Accepting help from a stranger, staying in his house, taking a job from his sister. Every instinct she had said to be careful, to question, to protect herself. But those same instincts had told her Marcus was safe, had told her that love was enough, had led her to drive into a blizzard alone. Maybe her instincts were broken. Maybe it was time to try something different. She looked at the ultrasound picture again, that tiny heartbeat, stubborn and strong. Okay, she whispered to it. We'll stay, just for a little while, just until I figure out what to do next. The baby didn't answer, but Madeline felt something settle in her chest. Not peace exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. She slept better that night than she had in months. The next morning brought Elena with breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, coffee that smelled incredible, until Madeline remembered she couldn't have caffeine. Elena swapped it for juice without comment. Mr. Moretti asked if you'd be well enough to meet his sister this afternoon, Elena said, arranging the tray. I told him it would depend on how you're feeling. I feel okay, sore, but okay. Then I'll let him know. Elena moved to the window, drawing back the curtains. Sunlight streamed in, bright against the snow. It's a beautiful day. Maybe later, if Dr. Reeves approves, we can get you outside for some air, just on the terrace. The cold is good for healing. Madeline wasn't sure she agreed with that assessment, but she nodded anyway. After Elena left, she ate slowly, thinking about the meeting ahead. A translation company. She'd minored in French in the 2 years of community college she'd managed before money ran out. Had picked up Spanish working at restaurants where half the kitchen staff spoke it better than English. It wasn't much, but it was something. She was finishing breakfast when Dominic knocked and entered, this time in jeans and a sweater. It was strange seeing him in casual clothes. He looked younger, almost approachable. My sister will be here at 2, he said. Her name is Sophia. She's direct, but fair. If you can do the work, she'll hire you. If you can't, she'll tell you. Okay. He studied her for a moment. You don't have to do this. If you'd rather wait, figure things out some other way. No. Madeline set down her juice glass. I need to work, need to make money. I can't just sit here and accept charity. It's not charity. Then what is it? He was quiet for a long moment. Call it an investment in someone who deserves a second chance. You don't know me. How do you know I deserve anything? Because you're still here. He moved to the door. That takes strength, more than most people have. After he left, Madeline sat with those words. Still here, still fighting, still trying. Maybe that was enough. At 2 o'clock exactly, there was a knock on the door. Madeline had managed to dress, real clothes this time, jeans and a sweater from the bags they'd retrieved from her car, and was sitting in the chair by the window when a woman walked in. Sophia Moretti looked nothing like her brother. Where Dominic was dark and controlled, Sophia was all energy and color. Red hair pulled back in a messy bun, green eyes sharp behind black-rimmed glasses, wearing a dress that probably violated several professional dress codes. You must be Madeline. She dropped into the chair across from her, crossing her legs. I'm Sophia. Dom says you speak French and Spanish. I do, not fluently, but how not fluently? I can read and write both pretty well. Speaking is shakier. That's fine. Most of our work is document translation. Contracts, technical manuals, that kind of thing. Boring, but pays well. She pulled out a tablet. I'm going to send you a sample, French to English, basic contract language. Show me what you can do. The test took 20 minutes. Madeline worked slowly, carefully, aware that Sophia was watching her. When she finished, she handed back the tablet. Sophia scanned through it, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. Not bad. You missed a couple of legal terms, but the overall meaning is solid. I can work with that. So I'm hired? If you want the job. Starting rate is $20 an hour. You work as much or as little as you want. Most contractors average 20 to 30 hours a week. I send you documents, you send them back translated. Simple. $20 an hour. Madeline did the math quickly. Even at 20 hours a week, that was $1,600 a month. More money than she'd made at the diner. I want the job. Good. Sophia stood, smoothing her dress. I'll send you the onboarding paperwork tonight. You'll need to set up direct deposit. I pay every 2 weeks. She paused at the door. Dom told me a little about your situation. Not much, but enough. If you need anything, and I mean anything, call me. I don't do helpless damsel bullshit, but I do help women who are trying to help themselves. She was gone before Madeline could respond, leaving only the faint scent of perfume and the sense that she'd just been evaluated and somehow had passed. That evening, Madeline filled out the paperwork on her phone, setting up direct deposit to the checking account that still had Marcus's name on it. She'd need to change that, add it to the growing list of things she needed to figure out. But for now, she had a job, had a place to stay, had time to heal. It was more than she'd had 2 days ago. The week passed slowly. Dr. Reeves came every other day, monitoring her recovery. Elena brought meals and fresh clothes and seemed to know exactly when Madeline needed company and when she needed space. Dominic appeared occasionally, always polite, always distant, checking on her progress but never lingering. The house itself was massive. Madeline had only seen her room and the hallway outside it, but Elena mentioned there were 12 bedrooms, a full gym, a library, a theater, all for one man. On the 5th day, Dr. Reeves cleared her for limited movement. You can walk around the house, no stairs yet, no heavy lifting, and if you feel any pain or dizziness, you stop immediately. Madeline waited until Elena left that afternoon, then ventured out of her room for the first time since she'd arrived. The hallway was long, lined with doors, all closed. She walked slowly, one hand on the wall for balance, and found a staircase at the end leading down. No stairs, Dr. Reeves had said, but Madeline could see the main floor from the landing, and what she saw made her pause. The foyer below was enormous, marble floors, high ceilings, a chandelier that probably cost more than a car. But it was the men she noticed. 3 of them standing near the front door, all wearing suits, all with the kind of stillness that spoke of training. Security, maybe, or something else. One of them looked up and saw her. He said something to the others, and they all turned. Madeline stepped back from the railing, suddenly aware that she'd wandered into territory she maybe shouldn't have. She turned to go back to her room and nearly ran into Dominic. Exploring? His voice was neutral, but his eyes were sharp. Doctor. Reeves said I could walk around. She did. He moved past her to the railing, looking down at the men below. But maybe stick to the upper floors for now. The main level gets busy this time of day. Busy with what? He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw him making a decision. Business. The kind that requires privacy. What kind of business do you do, Dominic? The kind that keeps people safe. He turned away from the railing. Come on. If you're feeling well enough to explore, I'll show you the library. You'll like it. The library was 3 doors down from her room, and he was right. She loved it immediately. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, leather chairs, a fireplace, windows overlooking the snow-covered grounds. Books everywhere, organized but well-used. Help yourself to anything, Dominic said. I don't get to read as much as I'd like. Madeline ran her hand along the spines, taking in titles. Fiction, history, philosophy, languages. These are all yours? Some were my father's. Most I've collected over the years. He paused. He died when I was 19. Left me this place and a lot of responsibilities I wasn't ready for. It was the first personal thing he'd told her. Madeline turned to look at him. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But something in his expression said it still hurt. Anyway, library's yours whenever you want it. Just don't tell Sophia. She'll move in. After he left, Madeline selected a book and curled up in one of the chairs, Outside, the sun was setting, painting the snow pink and gold. Inside, the fire crackled softly. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Madeline felt something that might have been contentment. It wouldn't last, she knew that. This was temporary. A pause, not a solution, but for now, it was enough. The contentment lasted exactly 4 more days. Madeline had settled into a routine of sorts. Mornings in the library working on translations, afternoons resting, evenings reading by the fire. The work from Sophia was steady, the pay deposited like clockwork. She'd opened a new bank account, transferred what little money she had, cut the last financial tie to Marcus. It felt good, like progress. She should have known it wouldn't last. The first sign came on a Tuesday morning. Madeline was at the desk in the library, headphones in, working through a particularly dense technical manual about hydraulic systems, when movement outside caught her eye. 3 black SUVs rolling up the long driveway, their windows tinted dark against the morning sun. She pulled out her headphones and watched as the vehicles stopped in front of the house. Men emerged, 6 of them, all dressed like the security she'd seen in the foyer. But these men moved differently, faster, more aggressive. The front door opened below, and she heard voices. Dominic's, calm and measured. Another man's, louder, edged with something that sounded like anger. Told you this would happen. Under control. Looks controlled to me, Moretti. Looks like you're getting soft. Madeline moved to the library door, cracking it open. The voices carried up the stairwell more clearly now. I don't answer to you, Castellano. Dominic's voice had gone cold. And I don't appreciate you showing up at my home making threats. Not a threat. A warning. Your territory, your responsibility, things slip, people notice, people talk. Let them talk. That's not how this works, and you know it. Footsteps. Heavy, coming closer. Madeline eased the door shut and stepped back, her heart suddenly racing. She shouldn't be listening to this. Shouldn't be here at all. The argument continued below, muffled now, but still heated. Then a door slammed. Engines started. The SUVs pulled away. Silence. Madeline stood frozen in the middle of the library, her hands shaking slightly. Territory. Responsibility. The kind of words that came with implications she didn't want to consider. The library door opened. Dominic stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. You heard that? Not a question. Some of it. How much? Enough to know you're in some kind of trouble. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. I'm not in trouble. There's a difference between trouble and business. That didn't sound like business. That sounded like a threat. It was both. He moved to the window, looking out at the empty driveway. Antonio Castellano runs operations south of here. We have an agreement about boundaries. He thinks I'm not holding up my end. Are you? Dominic turned to look at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked tired. That's complicated. Try me. He was quiet for a long moment, and she could see him weighing something. How much to tell her, whether to tell her anything at all. My father built an empire, he said finally. Import, export, investments. Some of it legitimate, most of it not. When he died, I inherited all of it, the business, the territory, the enemies. I've spent the last 15 years trying to turn it into something sustainable, something that doesn't require violence to maintain. And Castellano doesn't like that. Castellano thinks I'm weak, thinks I should rule through fear like the old generation did. He's waiting for me to fail so he can move in and take over. Madeline sat down in the nearest chair, processing this. So what are you? Mafia? Cartel? Neither. Both. The lines aren't as clear as people think. He pulled out the chair across from her and sat, elbows on his knees. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. What I do isn't legal. I move money. I move goods. I have connections that most people would find questionable. But I don't traffic people. I don't deal drugs. I don't hurt civilians. I have rules. Rules? She almost laughed. You have rules for your illegal empire. Everyone has rules, Madeline. Mine just happen to be different from the laws. And what happens if Castellano decides your rules aren't good enough? What happens to the people in this house? Nothing. This place is a fortress. Security systems, armed guards, safe rooms. No one gets in here unless I allow it. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. She stood, moving to the window. The grounds looked peaceful, deceptive. I should leave. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere that isn't a fortress. Somewhere normal. There's no such thing as normal, and you know it. He stood as well, but didn't come closer. You're safe here. Safer than you'd be anywhere else. Castellano was making noise, that's all. It doesn't change anything. It changes everything. She turned to face him. I came here because I had nowhere else to go. Because you saved my life and I needed help. But I didn't sign up for this. For whatever war you're fighting. I'm not fighting a war. Then what would you call it? He didn't answer. Couldn't, maybe. Madeline pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the small curve there. 12 weeks now. The baby was the size of a plum, according to the pregnancy app she'd downloaded. Real enough to show. Real enough to protect. I need to think, she said quietly. I need time to figure out what I'm doing. Take all the time you need, but Madeline, he paused until she looked at him. Running doesn't make you safer. It just makes you alone. After he left, she stood at the window for a long time, watching the sun move across the snow. He was right, and she hated that. She had nowhere to go. No money saved yet. No support system. And pregnant. But staying here meant accepting that she was living in a world she didn't understand. A world with territories and agreements and men like Castellano who made threats in broad daylight. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Heard Dom had visitors. You okay? Madeline stared at the message. Even Sophia knew. Of course she did. This was her world too. She typed back, I'm fine. Just processing. The response came immediately. Want to get lunch? I'm in town. Could pick you up in an hour. Getting out of the house suddenly seemed like exactly what she needed. Yes. Please. Sophia arrived in a cherry-red convertible that looked ridiculous against the snow, but somehow worked. She was wearing sunglasses and a leather jacket and looked like she'd stepped out of a movie. Come on, she said when Madeline climbed in. I know a place. The place turned out to be a small Italian restaurant 20 minutes away, tucked into a shopping center and smelling like garlic and fresh bread. They got a booth in the back and Sophia ordered for both of them without asking. So, Sophia said once the waiter left, Dom told you about the family business. He told me some of it. And you're freaking out. Wouldn't you be? Sophia pulled off her sunglasses, studying Madeline with those sharp green eyes. Honestly, no, but I grew up in this. It's normal for me. For you, I get it. It's a lot. That's an understatement. The waiter brought bread and olive oil. Sophia tore off a piece, dipped it. Look, I'm going to be straight with you because tiptoeing around it isn't my style. Yes, what my brother does is illegal. Yes, there are risks, but he's also the most careful person I know. The security at that house isn't for show. The men he employs aren't random thugs. Everything is calculated. Castellano didn't seem calculated. He seemed pissed. Castellano's always pissed. He's old school, thinks the world should work the way it did in the 80s. Dom's trying to evolve, modernize, reduce the violence. That makes people like Castellano nervous. Madeline took a piece of bread, not because she was hungry, but because she needed something to do with her hands. What happens if Castellano decides to do more than just show up and make threats? Then Dom handles it. That's what he does. That's what he's always done. Sophia leaned back as their food arrived. Pasta for both of them, rich and steaming. I know you're scared. I know you're thinking about leaving, but here's the thing. You're safer with Dom than you would be anywhere else. And not just because of the security, because he actually gives a damn. He doesn't even know me. No, but he knows what it's like to need help and not have anywhere to turn. His mom died when he was 8. Dad was around, but not really there, too busy building his empire. Dom raised himself. And me, when I came along. So when he sees someone who needs help, he helps. It's just who he is. The food was good. Madeline ate slowly, thinking about what Sophia had said, about Dominic as a child, raising himself and his sister, about choosing to help a stranger in a blizzard even though he had no reason to. I can't stay there forever, she said finally. No one's asking you to. But staying there for now while you figure things out, That's not weakness. That's strategy. Strategy for what? For survival, for building something better. Sophia gestured with her fork. You're what, 3 months pregnant? Single? No family support? You need time and resources to get on your feet. Dom's giving you that. Use it. It made sense. Cold, practical sense. And maybe that was what she needed right now. Less emotion, more strategy. Okay, Madeline said. I'll stay, for now. Good, Sophia grinned, because I just sent you 3 new contracts and I need them back by Friday. They talked about work after that, about translation challenges and difficult clients and Sophia's plans to expand into Asian languages. Normal conversation, easy. By the time they finished lunch, Madeline felt steadier. The drive back was quiet, Sophia's music playing low, the Montana landscape rolling past. When they pulled up to the house, Madeline noticed the security had increased. More men visible. More cameras. Don't worry about them, Sophia said, noticing her look. Dom's just being cautious. It'll calm down in a few days. But it didn't calm down. Over the next week, the tension in the house grew. More meetings behind closed doors, more cars coming and going. The men who worked security started carrying their weapons openly instead of concealed. Madeline tried to stay out of the way, spending most of her time in the library or her room, but it was impossible not to notice. Impossible not to feel the shift. Elena was the one who finally explained it. There's been trouble, she said one morning, bringing breakfast to Madeline's room. Nothing you need to worry about, but Mr. Moretti wants everyone to stay alert. What kind of trouble? Elena hesitated, then sat down on the edge of the bed. She'd never done that before. It made Madeline nervous. One of our warehouses was hit last night, south side of Billings. Someone set fire to it, destroyed everything inside. Was anyone hurt? No. It was empty, but it sends a message. Castellano. Most likely. Or someone working for him. Elena's face was tight with worry. This is how it starts. Small attacks, testing defenses, seeing how far they can push before Mr. Moretti pushes back. And when he pushes back, then things get worse before they get better. Madeline's hands went to her stomach automatically, protective. I should leave. I shouldn't be here for this. Where would you go that's safer? You think Castellano cares about collateral damage? If they know you're connected to this house, you're a target whether you're here or in some motel in town. Elena stood, smoothing her skirt. Mr. Moretti has kept this family safe for 15 years. He'll keep you safe too. You just have to trust him. Trust. Such a simple word for such a complicated thing. That afternoon, Dominic called a meeting. Not just security. Everyone in the house. Madeline, Elena, Marco the cook, the housekeeping staff, even Sophia who'd driven out from town. They gathered in what Dominic called the Great Room, a large space with leather furniture and a massive fireplace. Madeline sat next to Sophia, trying not to look as scared as she felt. Dominic stood at the front, his expression serious. By now you've all heard about the warehouse. I want to be clear about what that means. Someone is trying to provoke a response. They want me to retaliate publicly, to start a war that will draw attention we don't need. So what are we doing? One of the security men asked. Madeline thought his name was Marcus. No, Marco. Different Marco. This was getting confusing. We're not taking the bait. We're tightening security, reinforcing our positions, and making it clear that we're not easy targets. But we're not starting a fight. Dominic's gaze swept the room. That said, things may escalate. I need everyone to be aware, to be careful. No one leaves the property without checking in. No one brings outsiders here. And if you see anything suspicious, you report it immediately. What about the business? Another man asked. We can't just shut down. We're not shutting down. We're being smart, moving operations to more secure locations, diversifying routes, making it harder to predict our movements. He paused. I know this isn't what any of you signed up for. If you want to leave, no hard feelings. I'll make sure you're taken care of. No one moved. No one spoke up. Good, Dominic nodded. Stay alert, stay safe. We'll get through this. The meeting dispersed. Madeline started to stand, but Dominic caught her eye, gesturing for her to stay. Sophia squeezed her shoulder and left with the others. When the room was empty except for the two of them, Dominic sat down in the chair across from her. You're thinking about leaving again, he said. How did you... You get this look, like you're calculating exits. He leaned back, tired. I wouldn't blame you. This is exactly what you didn't want to be part of. No, it's not. Madeline met his eyes. But I'm here anyway, and Elena's right. Leaving doesn't make me safer. It just makes me alone. Elena's been with us for 20 years. She's seen worse than this. How much worse? You don't want to know. Maybe I do. Maybe I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Dominic was quiet for a moment, considering. My father's generation, they settled disputes with bullets. Literal bodies in the street. I've worked hard to move away from that, to build something that operates in the shadows but doesn't leave blood everywhere. Castellano represents the old way. He thinks I'm soft because I don't kill first and ask questions later. Are you soft? No. The word was flat, certain. I'm strategic. Violence attracts attention. Attention brings law enforcement. Law enforcement disrupts business. I avoid violence when I can. But when I can't... He stopped, shook his head. When I can't, I do what's necessary. And what's necessary now? Right now? Patience. Let Castellano make his moves, document everything, build a case for the commission. The commission? Think of it as a board of directors, 5 families who oversee operations in this region. They settle disputes, enforce agreements. If I can prove Castellano violated our treaty, they'll handle him. And if you can't prove it, then I handle him myself. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Madeline stood, moving to the window. Outside, 2 security men patrolled the perimeter, their breath fogging in the cold. I need to know something, and I need you to be honest. All right. Am I a liability? By being here, am I making things more complicated for you? She heard him stand, felt him move closer. Not touching, but near enough that she could feel his presence. You're not a liability, he said quietly. If anything, you're a reminder of why I'm trying to change things. Why I'm fighting to make this world less violent. Because people like you, people who didn't ask for this, who just need a chance, deserve better than the old way of doing things. She turned to face him. He was closer than she'd realized, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. I'm scared, she admitted. Good. Fear keeps you careful. His hand came up, hovering near her shoulder but not quite touching. But don't let it paralyze you. Don't let it make you run before you're ready. How will I know when I'm ready? You'll know. His hand dropped. He stepped back, and the moment, whatever it had been, passed. I need to make some calls, he said. Stay in the house tonight. If you need anything, Elena or one of the men will help you. After he left, Madeline stood at the window for a long time, watching the guards patrol, thinking about territories and treaties and the commission, about violence as a last resort and what that meant coming from a man who'd grown up in this world. She should be terrified, should be packing her things and demanding he take her to a hotel in town. Instead, she felt something else. Something she couldn't quite name, like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing you should step back but unable to look away from the view. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning. Finally, at 2 a.m, she gave up and went to the library. The fire was still burning low, and she found Dominic there, sitting in one of the leather chairs with a glass of whiskey and a file folder spread across his lap. Can't sleep either? He asked without looking up. Too much thinking. She curled up in the chair across from him. What are you working on? Supply chain logistics, thrilling stuff. He closed the folder and set it aside. Want a drink? Oh, wait. Can't. Pregnancy. Right. He took a sip of his whiskey. How are you feeling? With the baby, I mean. Everything's still okay? According to Dr. Reeves, we're both doing fine. I have another appointment next week. We should get you a proper OB, someone who specializes in pregnancy. Reeves is good for emergencies, but you need consistent care. The casual way he said it, like her medical care was something he'd already been thinking about, caught her off guard. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. But you're living in my house, working for my sister. That makes you family by extension, and I take care of family. I'm not your family, Dominic. Not yet. But you could be. He met her eyes over his glass. If you stay? The words settled between them, weighted with possibility. "I don't know what I'm doing," Madeline said finally. "I don't know how to be part of this world. I barely know how to be part of any world right now." "Then learn. You're smart. You adapt. I've watched you this past month. You didn't fall apart when everything went wrong. You didn't give up. You found a way forward. By accepting help from a stranger. By accepting help when you needed it. That's not weakness. That's survival." He set down his glass. "My father used to say that the strongest people aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up every time they do." Your father sounds complicated. He was. Brilliant and brutal in equal measure. Loved me in his way, but didn't know how to show it. Built an empire, but forgot to build a family. Dominic's expression softened slightly. "I'm trying to be different. Trying to build something that doesn't require you to choose between power and connection. Is that possible in this world? I don't know, but I'm going to find out." They sat in comfortable silence after that, the fire crackling, the house settling around them. Madeline felt herself relaxing for the first time in days. There was something steadying about Dominic's presence, something that made the fear less sharp. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Sure. Why didn't you take me to the hospital that first night? You could have, probably should have, but you brought me here instead." He considered the question, turning his glass in his hands. "Honestly, I don't know. Instinct, maybe. You were unconscious, bleeding, pregnant. Taking you to a hospital meant questions, police reports, social workers. I thought you might not want that. Thought you might need space to figure things out on your own terms. So you made that choice for me." "I did. And if you want to be angry about it, you have that right." Madeline thought about it. About what would have happened if he'd taken her to the hospital. The questions, the interventions, the possibility that they would have contacted Marcus, or tried to. "I'm not angry," she said. "I think maybe you were right. First time for everything." She laughed, surprising herself. It felt good. Normal. They talked for another hour, about books, about Montana winters, about nothing important. When Madeline finally went back to bed, she slept soundly for the first time in a week. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Madeline was in the library working when Dominic burst in, his phone pressed to his ear, his face tight. "When?" he demanded into the phone. "Where?" A pause. "No, don't move. I'm coming now." He ended the call and looked at Madeline. "I need you to go to your room and stay there. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except Elena or me." "What happened?" "Castellano made a move, a real one. I have to handle it." He was already moving toward the door. "Just stay here. Stay safe." "Dominic?" But he was gone, and she heard him shouting orders as he descended the stairs. Madeline stood frozen in the library, her heart racing. Then she heard something that made her blood run cold. Gunshots, distant but unmistakable. The war had started. The gunshots weren't close, but they were real. Madeline stood paralyzed in the library, every instinct screaming at her to move, to hide, to do something, but her feet wouldn't cooperate. More shots, then shouting, men's voices, urgent and sharp. The door flew open and Elena rushed in, her face pale. "Come with me, now!" "What's happening?" "No time. Move." Elena grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the hallway. They ran, as much as Madeline could run at 14 weeks pregnant, down the corridor to a door Madeline had never noticed before. Elena pressed her palm against a scanner on the wall, and the door clicked open, revealing a staircase leading down. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe. Don't talk. Just follow me." The stairs descended into darkness. Elena flipped a switch and lights flickered on, revealing a narrow passage carved into what looked like bedrock. The air was cool and smelled like concrete and earth. They reached the bottom, and Elena led her through another door. This one heavy steel with a wheel lock like something from a submarine. Beyond it was a room maybe 20 feet square with reinforced walls, a small bathroom in the corner, and supplies stacked along one wall. Bottled water, canned food, blankets, medical supplies. A bunker. Dominic had a bunker under his house. "Stay here," Elena said, her breathing heavy from the stairs. "Don't open the door for anyone except Mr. Moretti or me. You understand?" "Elena, what's going on? Those gunshots!" Castellano's men, Hit one of our checkpoints on the North Road. Killed 2 guards. This is retaliation. Elena's hands were shaking as she pulled out her phone. Mr. Moretti is handling it, but he wanted you somewhere he knows you're protected. The reality of it crashed over Madeline like ice water. Men were dead. People were dying. And she was in a bunker underneath a house owned by a man she barely knew, pregnant and terrified and completely out of her depth. I need to call someone, Madeline heard herself say. I don't know. Call who? You said yourself you have no one. Elena's voice was gentle but firm. The only people who can help you right now are in this house, and they're all busy trying to keep us alive. More gunshots echoed from above, closer this time. The sound reverberated through the bunker walls, muffled but unmistakable. Elena pulled a handgun from her waistband and Madeline's eyes went wide. You know how to use one of these? No. Then don't touch it. But if someone comes through that door who isn't me or Mr. Moretti, you hide in the bathroom and you don't make a sound. You understand? Madeline nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Good. Elena checked her phone again. I have to go back up. People need me. You stay here. Do not leave this room. Elena, but she was already at the door, pulling it open. You'll be fine. The walls are 18 inches of reinforced concrete. Nothing's getting through them. Then she was gone, the heavy door swinging shut with a clang that sounded like a prison sentence. Madeline was alone. She sank onto one of the cots along the wall, her whole body shaking. Above her she could hear thuds and crashes, more shouting. The sounds of violence filtered through layers of stone and steel, but still clear enough to paint a picture she didn't want to see. Her hand went to her stomach automatically, protective. It's okay, she whispered. We're okay, we're safe down here. But she didn't believe it, didn't believe anything was okay anymore. Time moved strangely in the bunker. Without windows, without any connection to the outside world except the sounds of fighting above, Madeline lost track of how long she'd been down there. An hour? 2? It felt like days. She paced the small space, wearing a path in the concrete floor, tried to distract herself by cataloging the supplies, enough food and water for maybe 2 weeks if she was careful. First aid kit, blankets, a battery-powered radio that she didn't dare turn on in case it attracted attention. A laptop sat on a small desk in the corner. She opened it and found it required a password. Of course it did. The gunfire had stopped maybe 20 minutes ago, or what felt like 20 minutes, but that didn't make her feel better. Silence could mean the fighting was over, or it could mean something worse. She tried the door, locked from the outside. She was trapped down here until someone came to get her. The panic started creeping in then, tightening her chest, making it hard to breathe. She forced herself to sit down, to count her breaths like Dr. Reeves had taught her. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Her phone had no signal down here. She stared at the screen anyway, at the photo she'd saved from her last ultrasound, that tiny shape, that stubborn heartbeat. I'm going to get us out of this, she said to the image. I promise. I'm going to figure out how to keep us safe. But she had no idea how to keep that promise. The sound of the door lock clicking made her jump. She scrambled to her feet, backing toward the bathroom like Elena had told her. The door swung open and Dominic stepped through. His shirt was torn at the shoulder, blood on his knuckles, a cut across his cheekbone that looked fresh. But he was alive, standing, moving. You okay? He asked, his eyes scanning her quickly, checking for injury. I'm fine, you're bleeding. It's not mine. Most of it. He closed the door behind him and leaned against it, exhaustion written across his face. It's over. For now. What happened? Castellano sent 12 men, thought he could take the house, send a message. He was wrong. Dominic moved to the small sink in the corner, running water over his bloody knuckles. We held them off, took 3 casualties on our side, 5 on theirs. 3 casualties. 3 people dead. Madeline felt sick. And Castellano? Still breathing, unfortunately. He wasn't here himself, just sent his dogs. Dominic dried his hands on a towel, wincing. But this changes things. He violated the treaty openly. The commission can't ignore it now. What will they do? Convene a hearing, review the evidence. If they find against him, they'll either force him to pay reparations or remove him entirely. He looked at her then, really looked at her. I know this is a lot, I know you didn't sign up for any of this. Nobody signs up for gunfights in their house. Madeline's voice came out sharper than she meant it. Nobody signs up for hiding in a bunker while people die upstairs. No, they don't. He moved closer but stopped a few feet away, giving her space. Which is why I'm giving you a choice. I can have Elena drive you into town tonight, get you a hotel room, set up an account with enough money to get you started somewhere else. Somewhere far from here. Or you can stay. Stay? After this? The fighting's done. Castellano won't risk another direct attack, not with the Commission watching now. And honestly, after tonight, this is probably the safest place in Montana. Every security measure we have is active. Every man I employ is on high alert. Nothing gets through that I don't want getting through. Madeline laughed, but it came out wrong. Bitter. You're asking me to trust that you can keep me safe when 3 of your men just died. I'm asking you to trust that I will do everything in my power to protect you. That's all any of us can promise. He paused. Look, I'm not going to lie. My world is violent sometimes. It's complicated and it's dangerous and it requires hard choices. But it's also the only world where I can guarantee you'll have what you need. Resources, security, a future for that baby. A future in this? She gestured around the bunker. Hiding underground every time someone decides to start a war? Or a future out there, alone, with no support and no safety net. Pick your poison, Madeline. She wanted to hate him for the bluntness, for reducing her choices to such stark options. But he wasn't wrong. Out there, she had nothing. And here she had safety, or at least the promise of it. I need air, she said finally. I need to get out of this bunker. It's safe upstairs now. I'll take you up. The house looked like a war zone. Bullet holes pocked the walls. Glass shattered across the foyer floor. One of the leather chairs in the great room had been overturned, a dark stain spreading across its back that Madeline tried not to look at too closely. Men were cleaning up, sweeping glass, patching holes. They moved with practiced efficiency, like this wasn't the first time they'd done this. Elena was directing 2 younger women, staff Madeline had seen but never spoken to, on which rooms to focus on first. She looked up when Madeline and Dominic emerged from the bunker entrance. Thank heavens, Elena said, crossing to them. I was starting to worry. I'm fine, Madeline managed. Did everyone, the injured are being treated. Dr. Reeves is setting up in the medical suite. Elena's face was drawn. We lost Thomas, Rico, and Davis. We're taking care of it. 3 names. 3 people who'd been alive this morning and now weren't. Madeline felt tears prick her eyes. I'm going to go lie down, she said quietly. Dominic nodded. I'll have Elena bring you something to eat. But Madeline didn't want food. She wanted to wake up from this nightmare. Wanted to go back to 2 months ago when her biggest problem was a cheating boyfriend and an unplanned pregnancy. She made it to her room before the tears came. Great. Heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She cried for the men who'd died. For herself. For the baby growing inside her, who deserved better than this. For the impossible situation she'd found herself in. A knock on the door interrupted her breakdown. She wiped her face quickly. Come in. It was Sophia. She looked tired, her makeup smudged, but she crossed the room without hesitation and pulled Madeline into a hug. I heard what happened, Sophia said into her hair. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. People died. I know. Sophia pulled back, her hands on Madeline's shoulders. Thomas had a wife, 2 kids. Rico was engaged. Davis was 23 years old. I know them. I know their families. And I know this is horrible. Then why do you stay? Why do any of you stay in this world? Sophia guided her to sit on the bed, settling beside her. Because it's our world. The only one we know. My father died in this business. My mother left because she couldn't handle it. Dom raised me in this house, in this life. I could leave. I have enough money, enough skills. But this is my family. These people, the ones cleaning up downstairs, the ones who fought today, they're my family. You don't abandon family. Even when family gets you killed? Even then. Sophia's voice was sad but certain. Look, I'm not going to tell you everything's fine. It's not. Today was bad, really bad. But it's also rare. Most days are boring. Contract negotiations and logistics and paperwork. The violence is the exception, not the rule. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. Sophia stood, moving to the window. Dom's calling a meeting tomorrow. The commission is convening the day after. This will get resolved. Castellano will answer for what he did. And what if the commission decides Dominic was at fault? What if they side with Castellano? They won't. Dom has evidence. Video footage of the attack. Testimony from survivors. Castellano violated every rule we have. The commission will come down on him hard. She turned back to Madeline. But I need you to understand something. This fight, it's been building for years. Dom's been trying to modernize, to reduce violence, to build something sustainable. Castellano and people like him want the old ways back. They want blood and fear. This was inevitable. And I just happened to be here when it exploded. Yeah, shit timing. Sophia's mouth quirked in something that might have been a smile if the situation weren't so grim. But you're here, you're safe, and Dom will make sure you stay that way. After Sophia left, Madeline lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. Her mind wouldn't stop spinning. 3 men dead, a baby growing inside her, a choice between impossible options. She must have fallen asleep eventually because she woke to darkness and Elena gently shaking her shoulder. Ms. Cross, I'm sorry to wake you, but there's a phone call. It's urgent. Madeline sat up, disoriented. What time is it? 3 a.m. The call is from Billings General Hospital. They say it's about a friend of yours. Fear spiked through her. What friend? I don't have... But then she remembered. Sarah, her best friend from high school. They'd lost touch over the years, but Sarah had reached out a few months ago, trying to reconnect. Madeline had been too wrapped up in her own drama to respond properly. She took the phone from Elena with shaking hands. Hello? Is this Madeline Cross? A woman's voice, professional but tired. Yes. What's going on? I'm calling from Billings General. You're listed as the emergency contact for Sarah Mitchell. She was brought in 2 hours ago. She's asking for you. Brought in for what? What happened? I can't give details over the phone, but she's stable and she's asking for you specifically. Can you come? Madeline looked at Elena at the darkened window. Yes, I'll be there as soon as I can. She ended the call and stood, already moving toward her closet. I need to get to the hospital. Sarah's hurt. She needs me. I'll drive you, Elena said. Give me 5 minutes to get the car ready and inform Mr. Moretti. No, I mean yes to the car, but don't wake Dominic. He's had a long enough day. But when they got downstairs, Dominic was already there, dressed and clearly awake. He looked at Madeline, then at Elena. The hospital? He asked. My friend Sarah. They said she's asking for me. I'm coming with you. You don't have to... I'm coming with you, he repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. If someone's in the hospital asking for you at 3 in the morning, I want to know why. The drive to Billings took 40 minutes. Elena drove while Dominic sat in the passenger seat, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low tones to someone on the other end. Madeline caught fragments. Check it out. Let me know what you find. Be discreet. When they pulled up to the hospital, Dominic ended his call and turned to look at her. What do you know about this friend? Not much. We were close in high school. She got married, moved to Billings. We lost touch. Madeline's stomach was tight with worry. Why? Because timing's suspicious. The same night we get attacked, your friend ends up in the hospital asking for you. You think this is connected? I think I don't believe in coincidences. They walked into the emergency room together, Madeline, Dominic, and Elena. The nurse at the desk directed them to the 3rd floor, room 312. Sarah was in the bed, her face bruised, her arm in a sling. When she saw Madeline, she started crying. Maddie, oh, thank God you came. Madeline rushed to the bedside, taking Sarah's good hand. What happened? Who did this to you? These men, they came to my apartment, asked about you, where you were staying, who you were with. I told them I didn't know, that we hadn't talked in months, but they didn't believe me. Sarah's voice shook. They hit me, kept asking questions, said I needed to get you a message. Ice flooded Madeline's veins. What message? That you're in danger, that the people you're staying with are dangerous, that you need to get away from them before it's too late. Behind her, Dominic swore quietly. Who were they? he asked, moving closer to the bed. Did they give names? Sarah looked at him nervously. Who are you? Someone who needs to know who did this. They didn't give names, but one of them, the one who hit me, he said to tell Madeline that Castellano sends his regards. The room went very quiet. Madeline felt Dominic's hand on her shoulder, steadying. Sarah, I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry you got dragged into this, but you did the right thing calling Madeline. They said they'd come back, said if Madeline doesn't leave, they'll make sure everyone she cares about pays the price. Sarah looked at Madeline with frightened eyes. I don't know what you're involved in, Maddie, but you need to run. Get as far away from these people as you can. Madeline wanted to tell her it wasn't that simple, that running didn't solve anything. But looking at Sarah's bruised face, at the fear in her eyes, she couldn't find the words. I'll take care of it, she said instead. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I never meant for you to get hurt. I know. Just be careful, please. In the hallway outside Sarah's room, Dominic was already on his phone again. I need eyes on Sarah Mitchell. 24-hour security. Discreet but effective. And I want to know every person who's been in or near her apartment in the last week. He ended the call and looked at Madeline. Castellano's escalating, going after people connected to you to draw you out, to make you leave. It's working. Sarah could have been killed because of me. Sarah was attacked because Castellano's a coward who targets civilians when he can't win a straight fight. Dominic's voice was hard. This isn't on you. It feels like it is. I know, but it's not. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Castellano knows I care about protecting you. Knows I won't let harm come to you, so he's trying to use that against me. Make you the weakness he can exploit. Then maybe I should leave. Get away from here so he has no reason to No. The word was sharp. That's exactly what he wants. You leave, you're unprotected. Easy target. He's betting I'll follow you, pull resources to keep you safe, leave other areas vulnerable. It's strategy. So what do? We end this. Tomorrow at the commission hearing, I present the evidence, they rule against him, and he's removed from power. Without his position, he's just another thug. His men will scatter, his territory will be redistributed. The threat ends. And if the commission doesn't rule in your favor, his jaw tightened, then I handle it my way. They drove back to the estate in tense silence. Dawn was breaking by the time they pulled through the gates, the snow-covered grounds turning pink with early light. Madeline went straight to her room, but didn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the sun rise, thinking about Sarah's bruised face and frightened eyes. About the men who died yesterday. About the baby growing inside her who deserved better than this constant fear. Around 8, there was a soft knock. Come in. Sophia entered carrying a tray with coffee, tea for Madeline, and pastries. Heard you had a rough night. That's one way to put it. Sophia set the tray down and settled into the chair across from her. Dom told me about your friend. That's heavy. I'm sorry. She got hurt because of me. Because I'm here. She got hurt because Castellano's an asshole who thinks hurting women makes him powerful. Sophia handed her a cup of tea. This ends today. One way or another after the commission hearing, this ends. You sound sure. I am sure. I've seen the evidence Dom's presenting. It's airtight. Castellano violated treaty terms, attacked our territory, killed our people, and went after a civilian. The commission has to rule against him. They have no choice. And if they don't? Sophia's smile was cold. Then Dom will remind everyone why you don't cross him already. The commission hearing was scheduled for 2 that afternoon. Dominic left at noon, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Madeline's car used to, his expression set and serious. Stay in the house, he told her before he left. Elena and the security team know not to let anyone in or out without my clearance. How long will you be gone? As long as it takes. Could be a few hours, could be all night. The commission doesn't rush these things. He paused, his hand on the door. Whatever happens, you're safe here. I made sure of that. After he left, Madeline tried to distract herself with work. Sophia had sent 3 new contracts, all urgent. She focused on translating a technical manual about industrial pumps, losing herself in the mechanical language, the precise terminology. But her mind kept drifting. To Sarah in the hospital, to the men who died yesterday, to Dominic sitting in front of some commission, arguing for his life and his territory. Around 6, her phone buzzed. Sophia. Hearing's still going. Dom says it's close. They're reviewing surveillance footage now. Madeline. What does close mean? Sophia. Means some commission members are arguing Castellano was within his rights to retaliate for perceived slights. Dom's countering with evidence it was unprovoked aggression. Madeline. This is insane. Sophia. Welcome to the family business. The hours crawled by. 7 o'clock. 8. 9. Still no word. Madeline was in the library pretending to read when Elena came in looking worried. There's a situation, she said quietly. Nothing dangerous, but I need you to come with me. Now. What kind of situation? A car just pulled up to the gate. Driver says she's your mother. Madeline's blood went cold. That's impossible. My mother and I haven't spoken in 3 years. She says it's urgent, that she needs to see you. Security won't let her through without your permission. This was wrong, all wrong. Her mother wouldn't just show up, wouldn't track her down, unless someone told her where to look. It's a trap, Madeline said, standing. It has to be. Castellano sent her. Or it's actually your mother and she's genuinely concerned. Elena's tone was gentle. Either way, we need to know. I've got 2 men heading down to verify her identity. If it's really her, do you want to see her? Did she? After 3 years of silence? After all the harsh words and burned bridges? Before Madeline could answer, the lights went out. Complete darkness. Then emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. Elena pulled out her phone, her face tight. Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Something's wrong. Elena! But she was already gone, running toward the stairs. Madeline stood alone in the red-lit library, her heart hammering. This was bad. This was very bad. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hello? Madeline Cross. The voice was male. Unfamiliar. You should have left when you had the chance. Then the line went dead. And outside, she heard the first explosion. The explosion rocked the entire house. Madeline grabbed the desk to keep from falling as books tumbled from the shelves around her. The red emergency lights flickered, steadied, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. She fumbled for her phone, using its dim light to navigate toward the door. Her hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to grip the handle. In the hallway, smoke was already creeping up from below, acrid and thick. Elena, she called out, but her voice was lost in the chaos of alarms blaring and men shouting. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. She pressed herself against the wall as figures rushed past. Security, she thought, hoped. In the strobe of gunfire from below, she caught glimpses of their faces. Some she recognized, some she didn't. A hand closed around her arm, and she nearly screamed. It's me! Elena's voice, urgent. We need to get you to the bunker. What's happening? Castellano. He hit us while Dom was at the hearing. Cut the power. Breached the perimeter. They're in the house. Elena was pulling her toward the bunker entrance, moving fast. The main force is holding them in the foyer, but another explosion, closer this time. The floor beneath them shuddered. How many? Madeline asked, stumbling to keep up. At least 20, maybe more. Elena yanked open the bunker door, practically shoving Madeline toward the stairs. Get down there and lock it from the inside. There's a panel by the door. Red button seals it. No one can get through after that. What about you? I'm going back to help. Go, now. Elena. But Elena was already gone, disappearing into the smoke-filled hallway with a gun in her hand that looked too big for her grip. Madeline descended into the bunker, her legs barely supporting her weight. Behind her, the sounds of the battle intensified. More gunfire, something that might have been a scream. She didn't let herself think about it. Couldn't. At the bottom, she found the control panel Elena had mentioned. Red button, just like she'd said. Madeline pressed it and heard the heavy locks engage above, sealing her in. The silence was immediate and absolute. Whatever was happening up there, she couldn't hear it anymore. She was alone in the reinforced concrete tomb with emergency lights casting everything in sickly yellow. Her phone rang. She jumped, nearly dropping it. Dominic. Where are you? His voice was tight, controlled, but she could hear the fear underneath. The bunker. Elena got me here before. You're sealed in? Yes. Good. Stay there. Don't open that door for anyone except me. I don't care what they say. I don't care if they sound like Elena or Sophia or anyone else. You wait for me. Dominic, what's happening? The commission ruled in my favor, unanimously. Castellano's been stripped of his territory and his position. He's supposed to be arrested and held for trial. A pause, heavy with implication. He didn't wait around for the arrest. Left the hearing early with his remaining men and came straight for you. The words settled like lead in her stomach. For me. He knows the commission's ruling means he's finished. He's got nothing left to lose. Going after you is his last shot at hurting me. The sound of a car engine roared in the background. I'm 15 minutes out. My men are holding the house, but it's bad. Just stay where you are, please. The call ended. Madeline sat on the cot, her whole body shaking. This was her fault. She'd brought this down on Dominic, on Elena, on all of them. If she'd just left when she had the chance, none of this would be happening. Her hand went to her stomach, to the small swell there. 16 weeks now. The baby was the size of an avocado, had fingerprints, could hear sounds from outside the womb, could hear the war being fought above them. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I brought you into this. Time moved strangely in the bunker. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been 50. Madeline sat in the yellow light, listening to nothing, imagining everything. Then the intercom crackled to life. She hadn't known there was an intercom. Miss Cross, a man's voice, unfamiliar, smooth, almost pleasant. I know you can hear me. I need you to open the bunker door. She didn't move, didn't breathe. I have Elena here with me. She's hurt, needs medical attention. You open the door, I'll let her go. You have my word. Madeline's eyes went to the intercom speaker mounted high on the wall. I don't know you. Your word means nothing. A pause. Then, smart girl. Let me introduce myself, Antonio Castellano. And you're right, my word probably doesn't mean much to you, but Elena's life should. A woman's voice strained with pain. Don't listen to him, Madeline. Stay. The sound of something hitting flesh. A gasp. She's very brave, Castellano continued, his voice still pleasant. But she's also bleeding from a rather nasty wound in her side. Without treatment, she'll be dead in an hour, maybe less. So here's my offer. You come up here, I let Elena live. I let everyone in this house live. And we have a conversation, you and I. What kind of conversation? The kind where I explain to you exactly what Moretti is, what he does, the blood on his hands, and then you make an informed choice about whether you want to stay in his world. Madeline's laugh came out harsh. You just attacked his house, killed his people, and you want to lecture me about blood on hands? I'm a businessman protecting my interests. Moretti, though, he's something else, something worse. He dresses it up nice, talks about modernization and reducing violence, but at the end of the day, he's his father's son, a killer who's very good at pretending otherwise. I'm not opening the door. Then Elena dies, along with Marco, who's hiding in the kitchen with a bullet in his leg, and the 2 housekeepers locked in the pantry, and everyone else in this building who's still breathing. Is that really what you want? All those deaths on your conscience? She could barely think through the pounding of her heart. This was exactly what Dominic had warned her about, a manipulation. Castellano trying to use her compassion against her. But what if he was telling the truth? What if Elena really was dying up there? How do I know Elena's even alive? She asked. Shuffling sounds. Then Elena's voice again, closer to the intercom. Madeline, don't. He'll kill you the second you... A grunt of pain. Satisfied? Castellano asked. You have 2 minutes to decide. After that, I start executing hostages, starting with Elena. The intercom clicked off. Madeline stared at the sealed door. 2 minutes, 120 seconds to make a choice that would determine who lived and who died. Her phone buzzed. Dominic, 10 minutes out, do not open that door. She typed back, he has Elena. He's going to kill her. He's going to kill you. That's what this is. Stay where you are. But she could hear Elena's voice in her head, the pain in it, the fear. Madeline stood and moved to the control panel. Her hand hovered over the red button. Every instinct screamed at her not to do this, that opening the door meant death, that Dominic was right. But she thought about Elena, who'd helped her, protected her, treated her like family. About Marco, who made her soup when she was sick. About the housekeepers whose names she'd never learned but who smiled at her in the hallways. She couldn't let them die. Not for her. She pressed the button. The locks disengaged with a heavy clunk. The door swung open and 3 men were waiting. They grabbed her before she could change her mind, hauling her up the stairs. She tried to fight, but it was useless. They were too strong, too many. They emerged into chaos. The house was destroyed. Walls pocked with bullet holes, furniture overturned, blood smeared across the marble floor. Bodies. She tried not to look at the bodies. Castellano stood in the center of the foyer, older than she'd expected. Maybe 60, with silver hair and a suit that had probably been expensive before it got spattered with blood. He smiled when he saw her. There she is. The woman worth going to war over. He gestured to one of his men. Bring Elena. They dragged Elena forward. She was conscious, but barely, her shirt soaked with blood, her face pale. When she saw Madeline, her expression crumpled. I told you to stay. I couldn't let you die. How touching. Castellano nodded, and his man released Elena. She collapsed to the floor, gasping. There, as promised, she lives. Now you and I are going to have that conversation. I came up here. Let the others go. In time. First, I need you to understand something about Dominic Moretti. Castellano moved closer, and Madeline forced herself not to step back. You think he saved you out of kindness, that he's protecting you out of some noble impulse. But the truth is, your leverage, insurance, a pregnant woman with nowhere else to go makes for excellent collateral. That's not true. Isn't it? Why else would he keep you here? Why else would he give you work, give you safety, give you a place in his home? Not out of charity. Men like Moretti don't do charity. They make investments. You don't know him. I know his father, know what that man was capable of. And I've watched Dominic for 15 years. Watched him consolidate power, eliminate rivals, build an empire on the backs of desperate people who had nowhere else to turn. Castellano's smile was cold. You're not special, Miss Cross. You're useful. The moment you stop being useful, he'll discard you like garbage. Then why do you care? If I'm just leverage, just collateral, why go to all this trouble? Because watching him lose something he values will hurt worse than any bullet I could put in him. Castellano pulled a gun from his waistband. And because the commission may have stripped my position, but they can't strip my pride. They can't make me bow to a man half my age who thinks he can change the rules we all live by. The gun came up, pointing at Madeline's chest. This was it. This was how she died. Not in a car crash, not in a blizzard, but in the foyer of a mansion, shot by a man whose war she'd never wanted any part of. She closed her eyes. The gunshot was deafening, but there was no pain. She opened her eyes to see Castellano stumbling backward, blood blooming across his shoulder. Behind her, in the doorway, stood Dominic with a smoking gun and murder in his eyes. Get away from her! What happened next was fast and brutal, and nothing like the movies. Castellano's men opened fire. Dominic's men poured in through every entrance. The foyer became a war zone, and Madeline was in the middle of it. Someone tackled her to the ground, one of Dominic's men shielding her with his body. Bullets tore through the air above them. Glass shattered. Men screamed. Through it all, she watched Dominic, watched him move through the chaos like he'd been born for it. Every shot calculated, every movement precise. This wasn't the careful businessman who'd saved her from the snow. This was someone else entirely, someone dangerous, someone lethal. The gunfire stopped as abruptly as it started. In the ringing silence, Madeline heard groaning, labored breathing, the crackle of something burning somewhere deeper in the house. The man shielding her stood, helped her to her feet. She looked around at the carnage. Castellano's men were down, dead or dying. Dominic's men were securing the area, checking bodies, calling for medical assistance. And Dominic was standing over Castellano, his gun pointed at the older man's head. Dominic. Madeline's voice came out hoarse. Don't. He didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on Castellano, who was clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. Give me one reason, Dominic said quietly, why I shouldn't end this right now. Because the commission, Castellano started. The commission gave me the authority to protect my territory by any means necessary. You attacked my home, killed my people, threatened a civilian under my protection. That gives me every legal right under our laws to execute you where you sit. Then do it. Castellano's smile was bloody. Prove me right. Prove you're your father's son. The gun didn't waver. Madeline could see Dominic's finger on the trigger, the tension in his shoulders. He wanted to pull it. Every line of his body screamed for it. Dominic! She moved closer, stepping around bodies, around blood. Please, don't let him make you into what he says you are. You think I'm not already that? He finally looked at her, and the expression in his eyes made her heart ache. You think I got here, built this, survived this long without becoming exactly what he says? I think you've done what you had to do. But this? Executing a man who's already beaten, that's not necessity. That's revenge. Maybe revenge is what's necessary. And maybe it's what destroys you. She was close enough to touch him now, close enough to see the war raging behind his eyes. You told me you were trying to build something better, something that didn't require violence. Prove it. Right now. Prove it. The silence stretched. Dominic's hand shook slightly. Then slowly, he lowered the gun. Get him out of here, he said to his men. Take him to the commission. Let them deal with him. They dragged Castellano away, still bleeding, still smiling that awful smile. As soon as they were gone, Dominic turned to Madeline. Are you hurt? No, but Elena, medical team's already working on her. She'll live. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. You opened the door. I told you not to open the door. He was going to kill her. He was going to kill you. That was always the plan. Elena would have understood, would have rather died than let you... He stopped, shook his head. We're not doing this now. You need to be checked out. The baby needs to be checked out. Come on. Dr. Reeves had set up a triage station in what used to be the dining room. She checked Madeline quickly, efficiently, her hands gentle but thorough. The ultrasound machine appeared from somewhere, and Madeline found herself lying on a makeshift examination table while Dr. Reeves pressed the wand against her stomach. The heartbeat filled the room, strong, steady, alive. Everything looks good, Dr. Reeves said, and the relief in her voice suggested she'd been more worried than she let on. No signs of distress. Baby's doing fine. Madeline started crying then. Couldn't help it. Great, gulping sobs of relief and terror and exhaustion. Someone, Sophia, she realized, pulled her into a hug and held on while she fell apart. It's over, Sophia whispered. It's done. Castellano's finished. But it didn't feel over. It felt like standing in ruins, surveying the damage, knowing that rebuilding would take more strength than she had left. Over the next few hours, the chaos slowly organized itself into something resembling order. The bodies were removed. The wounded were treated. The police came. Cops who clearly had some arrangement with Dominic because they took statements and left without making any arrests. By the time the sun came up, the house was quiet again. Damaged but standing. Madeline found Dominic in his office, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. She knocked softly on the doorframe. Can I come in? He looked up, and the exhaustion on his face made him look years older. Yeah. She sat in the chair across from his desk. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I'm sorry, she said finally, for opening the door, for not listening to you. You saved lives. Elena, Marco, the others. If you hadn't come up when you did, Castellano would have made good on his threat. He leaned back in his chair. But you also could have died, and I... His voice cracked slightly. I can't lose you, either of you. We're not going anywhere. You should. You should take the money I offered, go somewhere far from here, start over, build a life that doesn't involve bunkers and gunfights and... Stop. She leaned forward. I'm not leaving. I thought about it. During those hours in the bunker, I thought about everything. And you know what I realized? I'm safer here, with you, than I would be anywhere else. Not because of the security or the guards or the reinforced walls. Because you care. Because you fight for the people in your life. Because you could have killed Castellano, but you didn't. Because when it mattered, you chose to be better. I chose not to be my father. Same thing. He stood, moved around the desk, and pulled her to her feet. His hands framed her face, gentle, despite the blood still on his knuckles. I can't promise you normal. Can't promise you safe, not completely. This world, my world, it's always going to have risks. I know. But I can promise you that I will do everything in my power to protect you and that baby. That I will never lie to you about what I am or what I do. And that if you choose to stay, if you choose to build a life here, I will spend every day trying to be worthy of that choice. Madeline reached up, covering his hands with hers. Then I choose to stay. He kissed her then, and it felt like sealing a promise. Like stepping off a cliff and trusting there would be something to catch her. When they finally pulled apart, Sophia was standing in the doorway with a knowing smile. Hate to interrupt, but the commission's on the phone. They want a full report, and Elena's awake, asking for Madeline. She looked between them. Also, I'm calling it now. You two are going to be insufferable together. The commission hearing that followed Castellano's arrest was anticlimactic compared to everything else. The evidence was overwhelming. The attack on Dominic's home, the targeting of civilians, the violation of treaty terms. Castellano was stripped of all remaining assets and exiled from the territory. His men were given a choice: pledge to new leadership or leave. Most pledged. The rebuilding took 3 months. The house was repaired, security upgraded, new protocols established. Dominic used the opportunity to restructure his entire operation, cutting ties with the more violent elements, focusing on legitimate business ventures. It'll take years to fully transition, he told Madeline one evening as they reviewed contracts in the library. Maybe decades. But we're moving in the right direction. We, she noted. We. He looked at her over his reading glasses. You're part of this now, whether you want to be or not. She was 5 months pregnant by then, her belly round and obvious. The baby kicked constantly, especially when she was trying to sleep. Dr. Chen, the OB that Dominic had found, who came to the house twice a week, said everything looked perfect. Madeline had taken a larger role in Sophia's company, managing not just translation, but client relations and contract negotiations. She was good at it, better than she'd expected. Turned out years of managing difficult customers at the diner had prepared her well for managing difficult business executives. Elena had recovered fully, though she moved a bit slower now. She'd appointed herself the baby's honorary grandmother and had already started knitting blankets and booties in soft pastels. You don't even know if it's a girl or boy, Madeline protested when Elena presented her with the 5th pink blanket. It's a girl, I can tell. Elena's smile was knowing. I'm never wrong about these things. She wasn't wrong. The ultrasound at 6 months confirmed it, a girl. Madeline cried again. Seemed like she was always crying these days. Hormones, Dr. Chen said. But it felt like more than that. Felt like release, like joy, like hope for a future she'd stopped believing in. A daughter, Dominic said softly, his hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick. We're having a daughter. We need to think about names. Already have one, if you're open to it. Yeah? Rose. After my mother. Madeline tested it. Rose. Rose Moretti. Rose Cross. Rose Cross Moretti. Rose, she said. I like it. The labor came 3 weeks early, fast and brutal. Madeline woke at 2 a.m. with contractions already 5 minutes apart. By the time they got her to the hospital in Billings, Dr. Chen insisted on a hospital for the delivery. She was at 6 centimeters and screaming through each contraction. Dominic stayed with her the whole time, holding her hand, letting her curse him, telling her she was doing great even when she called him a liar. Rose arrived at 6:47 a.m., screaming her fury at the world, pink and perfect and utterly terrifying. She's so small, Madeline whispered, holding her daughter for the first time. How is something this small even real? She's perfect. Dominic's voice was thick with emotion. You're both perfect. They weren't perfect. Rose cried constantly for the first 3 weeks. Madeline was exhausted and overwhelmed and had no idea what she was doing. Dominic tried to help, but he was equally clueless. Elena saved them. She moved into the house full-time, taking night shifts when Madeline was too tired to function, teaching them how to swaddle and burp and decode different cries. You'll figure it out, she assured them. All parents do eventually. Slowly, they found their rhythm. Madeline learned to function on 3 hours of sleep. Dominic learned to change diapers without gagging. Rose learned that nighttime was for sleeping, mostly. Sophia was the favorite aunt, showing up with ridiculous gifts: a tiny leather jacket, a onesie that said "Future CEO," a mobile made of little designer handbags. "You're going to spoil her," Madeline protested. "That's literally my job as the aunt." Sophia held Rose, who'd fallen asleep on her shoulder. "Besides, she's going to run this whole operation someday. Might as well get her used to the finer things." 6 months became a year. Rose's first birthday was celebrated with entirely too much fanfare. A party with 50 guests, a cake the size of a small car, enough presents to fill a room. Madeline watched from the sidelines, holding a glass of sparkling cider, marveling at how different her life looked from where she'd started. A year and a half ago, she'd been driving into a blizzard with nothing but a car full of garbage bags and a pregnancy test in her pocket. Now she was standing in a restored mansion, surrounded by people who'd become family, watching her daughter demolish a cupcake with single-minded determination. Dominic appeared beside her, slipping an arm around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" "How far we've come. How different everything is." "Regret any of it?" She looked at Rose, at Sophia trying to clean frosting off the birthday girl's face, at Elena laughing with Marco in the corner, looked at Dominic, at the life they'd built together from nothing but desperation and chance. "Not for a second," he kissed her temple. "Good, because I have something for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket, not a ring box, something else. Inside was a key. "What's this?" "The house is in both our names now, legally, officially. You're not a guest anymore. You're home." The tears came again. Happy ones this time. "I love you," she said, and meant it with everything she had. "I love you too, both of you." He pulled her closer. "My girls." 2 years after that night in the snow, Madeline Cross had found something she'd stopped believing existed. Not just safety or security or a place to live. She'd found home, found family, found a future worth fighting for. And when Rose took her first steps across the library floor, grabbing for Madeline's outstretched hands while Dominic cheered from his chair, Madeline understood that this messy, complicated, beautiful life was exactly what she'd been driving toward all along. She just hadn't known it until she'd crashed. The scars remained, of course. Physical ones from the accident, emotional ones from betrayal and loss and the violence she'd witnessed. Some nights she still woke from nightmares about bunkers and gunfire, but Dominic was always there. And in the morning, Rose would climb into bed between them, sticky fingers and wild hair, demanding pancakes and stories. Life went on. The business continued. Dominic's transition toward legitimate operations progressed slowly but steadily. There were setbacks, complications, the occasional reminder that leaving the old world behind wasn't simple, but they built something good from the ruins, something lasting. 3 years in, Dominic asked her to marry him. Simple proposal, just the two of them in the library where they'd spent so many quiet evenings. "I know it's complicated," he said. "Legal marriage means legal ties to all of this. To my past, my business, everything that comes with my name. You don't have to say yes." "I know." Madeline took the ring from the box, a simple band with a single stone that caught the firelight. "I'm saying yes anyway." They married in the spring. Small ceremony in the garden with just family and close friends. Rose was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously, concentrating fiercely on not dropping petals. Standing at the altar, Madeline thought about the girl she'd been. The one who'd believed Marcus when he said he loved her. Who'd thought stability meant settling. Who'd driven into a storm because she had nowhere else to go. That girl had died in the snow. The woman she'd become had been born in the warmth that followed. "I do," she said when the moment came. "I do," Dominic echoed. And when they kissed, Rose cheered loudly enough to make everyone laugh. 5 years after the accident, Madeline stood in the library, their library now, hers and Dominic's, with their second daughter sleeping against her shoulder. Grace, 6 months old, dark hair like her father, green eyes like her mother. Rose was in the corner with Elena, learning to knit, her small fingers struggling with the needles but refusing to give up. Through the window, Madeline could see the Montana landscape she'd once hated. The snow didn't seem as brutal anymore, the cold didn't cut as deep, or maybe she'd just gotten stronger. Dominic came in carrying contracts, kissed Grace's head, then Madeline's lips. Ready to look at the Prague deal? Born ready, they worked side by side, partners in business and life, while their daughters played nearby. It wasn't the life Madeline had imagined. Wasn't the safe, normal existence she'd once thought she wanted. It was better, because it was real, because it was earned, because every good thing in it had been fought for and won. That night, after the girls were asleep and the house was quiet, Madeline stood at the bedroom window looking out at the stars. "You okay?" Dominic asked from the bed. "Yeah." She turned to him, smiled, "Just thinking about how lucky I am." "Lucky?" He raised an eyebrow. "You nearly died. Twice." "I know. But if I hadn't crashed that night, if you hadn't found me, none of this would exist. Rose wouldn't exist. Grace wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist." "So you're saying car crashes and hypothermia are romantic?" "I'm saying sometimes the worst things lead to the best things." She climbed into bed beside him. "I'm saying I'd do it all again, every terrifying second. Because it brought me here." He pulled her close, his hand resting on her hip. "No more car crashes, though. My heart can't take it. Deal." Outside, snow began to fall. Soft and quiet, and nothing like the storm that had changed everything. Madeline closed her eyes and let herself drift, safe and warm and home at last. The girl who'd lost everything in one night had found everything worth having in the wreckage. And that, she thought, as sleep pulled her under, was a pretty good ending after all.